Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the CEO Diaries. If you are watching the film, you see that I have a really exciting guest today that everyone has been dying to hear from. And if you're just listening, hello, this is Tara, and I have Kyrsten Chandler here. Say hello.
Hello.
Kyrsten, have you ever done a podcast?
No.
Are you nervous?
Sure.
She's a little nervous. No, I am really excited to have her on here because, you know, if you have attended any of our classes and if you've been really involved in Harper Ellis Hair Co., you have seen and you've heard from her and you've learned from her. Kyrsten has one of the most inspiring stories that I have honestly ever personally come in contact with, but even if I wasn't personal contact with you,
right,
I would still think it was one of the most inspiring that I've ever heard in this industry for sure. But you guys that are out there and are wanting to grow and wanting to be something more, you're going to be so inspired too. So we're going to dig into it. If you haven't followed, I'll repeat this at the end, but if you haven't followed her on Instagram, your handle is Colored by Kyrsten, right? Is it colored dot?
Yes.
Okay, colored
by, it's KBK too.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So tell it what it is, because I don't know what the hell you just said.
It's colored with a K by Kyrsten, but it's colored dot by dot Kyrsten. And it's Kyrsten.
Yes.
Yeah.
So go follow her, because not only that, you'll love her style. She's just one of those that just dresses to a T every day.
Thank you.
And she always looks good. And honestly, that's a big part of her success. So we're going to dive into it. First of all, I want her to start and tell you kind of, you know, her story, where she started, how we got together.
It's crazy.
And all the things. I know, it's been a long journey, but I'm going to let her tell it. So dive right in.
I'm super excited to share this because, like, I've honestly been thinking about, like, you know, like, it would be really cool for people, you know, either going into cosmetology school or getting right out of it, because it is a very terrifying thing. Kind of like where we started was I was probably 14 years old at the time, you know, going through school. You know, it's always this talk with your parents, what do you want to be in life? And you never know. I'm like, genuinely, though, I had no idea. I was like, you know, office job sounds awful. I would go crazy. I can't sit still in a classroom full of people. Imagine me in a cubicle. Yeah. Would never happen. But I guess it started, I really loved hair. Me and my mom have always had like massive amounts of hair, so we always had like a lot of freedom to do things. My mom's super cool. She's where a lot of my inspo comes with in live.
She is really cool.
She is really cool.
If you haven't seen her mom, check her out.
Oh yeah,
Shannon's one of the coolest people I've ever met.
She is super cool. But my mom used to go to you for her hair, and then, you know, it's like one of those things like mom and daughter thing where, you know, she's getting her hair done, then she takes her daughter to get her
Actually,
done.
I had to hold on and pause that.
Go for it.
So I have to tell everyone how I even, which I've known her mom. We're from the, little backstory too, we're from the same hometown. Where Kyrsten and I are both from a town called Muldrow, Oklahoma.
Mudhole Bullfrogs.
Mudhole Bullfrogs. we were the Muldrow Bulldogs. And
yes.
so, you know, the joke was the Mudhole Bullfrogs.
Yep.
Haha. And basically a town of like 4,000 people. So super, super small.
Right.
And so our parents are friends, and we just, you know, everybody knows everybody. So I've always known her mom.
Yep.
But one day her mom called me up and was like, my hair is bright orange. She was trying to do a bleach and tone and just go like a solid platinum. She had like a cute bob.
Yeah.
And basically whoever did it before, it was just like bright orange. And so she basically was like, please save me.
Yep.
And that's how our relationship started, because I got her to a really pretty platinum blonde in one day.
Beautiful.
And that's how it started. So,
yes. Yeah. And so then I've also, like, you know, I seen my mom like bawl her eyes out, call Tara, and then like I see her come home and she's like glowing, and I was like, it's also one of those things, like I said, mom and daughter, like, it's a really cool experience. You know, you take your daughter to get your hair done, but it was more amazing to me seeing my mom come home being so happy, you know, because when I see like she had a distress, like she wore a ball cap for 3 days until she could come into you. Like, she cried all the time, but she came home, she had beautiful hair. She's like, I feel amazing. I feel like my face looks good with this haircut. Like, it was stunning. So I was like, Mom, I want to get my hair done. And she's like, you know, like, let's wait a bit. Your hair's so pretty. You know how that goes. But she's like, fine, we'll go to tea. And I think at the time you were at that small little booth rent place. Is that correct? I remember it had 2 small rooms. It had 2 shampoo bowls and a, like, maybe 4 chairs of a waiting room and like a tiny little cubicle desk. And I was like, this place is so cute, you know, looking at now, crazy. But I remember going, and I think you did just a few pops of highlight, and you gave me like my first ever like, you know, like cute cut. Like before everyone just kind of like chopped off my hair. I hated it, but I'm sitting there, and my mom's telling me like, oh, you know, like Tara actually ran off to Vegas when she was 18. I hope you never do that to me. I remember my mom saying that. You were never allowed to leave me, and she has said it every day since. But she was like, you know, Tara's done this. And then I remember just watching Tara like do my hair and seeing the way that my mom was happy. I was so happy. And you were like in your own world. Like no one bothered you. You were just doing hair. And I look back now and I could imagine how stressed out you were actually on the backside now knowing. But it was like, I remember going home and being like, Mom, like I think I want to be a hairstylist. Like I want to be like Tara. And she was like, okay, you know, like we'll think about it. Well, fast forward, you call my mom, and you were actually like, I think I'm going to open up a salon. And I was like, Mom, please beg her that I can have a job. Like, I don't care what I have to do. If it's running errands, getting coffee for them, if I have to get a scooter.
How old were you at this point?
15.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like I was 15 and a half years. I was close to getting to 16. You know, it was like to the point where it was like you opened, and, you know, I think like a few months after, you're like, you know, Kyrsten can have a few hours after school. Like, it's not going to be very many days, but, like, you know, she can. And I was like, yes. Guys.
I actually trusted her to answer the phone.
Crazy. First ever job ever in my life.
Here's customer service. You'll do fine.
Right. It was like one of those things. It was, I will say to this day, is one of the most challenging things I think I've ever done. But we'll get to why it was so important. But so imagine, I'm 16 years old. I was in band. I was a cheerleader. I was doing normal high school things. And then I was working a few days after school with you. In school, I did not do well. Let's just say it. I'm going to be honest. I hated school. I hated it. And honestly, that's why I knew college also was not going to be for me. And my parents told me, love you, sis, but you're probably not going to go to college. Let's just be honest here.
Let's not try that algebra.
Like, I think hairstylist would be great for you. My parents loved me very much, know that. But it was like one of those things.
They're honest parents.
They're very honest, and I love them for that. But it was one of those things where it was like, I knew I hated it. And I knew that, oh my God, I would never want to do this. And so it was one of those things where like, even teachers that knew my mom would go to her and be like, listen, even in elementary school, they'd listen, like, I'm extremely ADHD. I can't sit still. I would rather sit there and draw and be creative all hour than learn anything about math, history. I don't care about any of that. It was like things that I wanted to do. I know that's really selfish, but
No, it's totally not.
Yep, but I was literally like, my senior year, following up, I'm pretty sure I failed math, not gonna lie, but it was like one of those things where like, I did not do well. So I worked with Tara a few days after school. I did things like that, and I'm not gonna lie, I was at a point where I was like very low, because I was like, you know, it was very hard for me, because at 16 years old, like, you have that narrative in your brain, like, I shouldn't have to do this type thing. Like, Tara pushed me. I remember you pushed me all the time. You were like, you're going to do this, you're going to do it like this, and you're going to do it right. And you never once just let it fly. There was no flybys. There was, as soon as it happened, you were like, nope, done. And I'd be like, got it. Like, okay.
There were lots of stories,
oh my God,
you know, back in the day. And sometimes, you know, she's now 21. She started at, you know, 16 years old at my salon, which is my first business that I ever opened.
Right.
And, you know, her being that young, and I was just in this place in life where I just opened my first business. That obviously didn't come easy.
Your stress was also still
my stress level was, you know, 2
Yeah.
a 10, which it's been 2 a 10 since then.
Yeah.
Welcome to being an entrepreneur. But, you know, I just remember like the narrative sort of that you had about yourself because of the way that maybe teachers talked about you, or, you know, like you said, they were going to your parents and saying, you know, basically saying that you weren't smart.
Yes.
And kind of putting you in this category and putting you in this box that you actually weren't in. You just give a damn about algebra, and neither do I.
Yep.
And
bingo.
So, you know, great if that's your thing, but
Right.
you know, that just wasn't what you loved.
It
and
wasn't.
so I just remember I'll never forget, I got my first apartment here in Fort Smith, and I was like, hey, it was this really cool apartment with brick walls, and actually, oddly enough, you live across the hallway now than, exact way. From the apartment that I lived in back then. Yeah. And I was like, paint me these really cool, pictures. I had these like inspiration picked out. And it was just amazing because, like, within days, I had these, like, huge canvases of, just art. They were amazing art. A couple of them are still hanging in the salon now. And it was funny because I was just like, this girl is, she's always looked like this. Maybe not exactly like this, but it's obviously evolved to be better and better, but you've always had this like look, and you've always had this personality that people are, extremely drawn to. Right. And, something about it back then and I didn't know, I can't predict the future, of course, but, I just knew that there was so much more to you. And it was almost sad, to me. I remember I'm like, this girl has been put in this category. Like, she's not smart. She doesn't pass tests. Yeah. She's lazy. Like, all these things that teachers in high school and that's too, if you guys are listening out there and you guys guide children at all, or and I'm not saying I know everything, because we all know that, and I'm raising a 2-year-old right now, and it's the most challenging thing in the world, but it was just like, to me as an outsider, knowing like what she was probably going to be capable of, it was sad to see that like category that you were just placed inside of, and you had no control over it. You were just like, okay, I guess, and you started to believe it, because you were so young, you didn't have any confidence to be able to go, absolutely not, I am a smart person. I am capable of this. And so that was kind of your narrative for a little bit.
It was, because that's what I was stuck in. It was like, people were like, and like my parents, I love my mom so much, but she knew that. She was like, I know that's not what you want and it's hard for you. And she was very accepting of that. But like you said, teachers were not. They were like, you need to punish her. You need to do this. And then, like, funny enough with those paintings, I was like, screw homework. I'm going to paint Tara these badass paintings and they're going to look so cool in her apartment. But it was things like that. It was more of like, I can express myself more and I can show myself how hard I can work on things that genuinely I knew that like made me happy. Right. Because it was like, I couldn't do that a lot. I was stuck in a small town school with teachers that all they, like, that's what they were taught also. Like, they didn't know any better. And there aren't hairstylists like you. Like, that was not what we grew up in. Like, hairstylists did not do things like we do now. So when they saw that or they thought that, it was like a red flag to them, especially. But
and in high school, I think we shared the same teacher. Yes. We can talk about this later, because definitely no names, but there was a teacher in high school that, like I said, I think you had, that when I told her I wanted to do hair, which I knew that in high school too, she was like, oh, well, her kind of remark was just, be prepared to not make a lot of money. Right. And that was sort of whenever you started, because you actually started a trade school in high school, which I thought was the smartest thing you could do. And I remember talking to your mom about it, and she went to a local trade school and got a license. It wasn't the best school in the world. They didn't, there wasn't a lot of fluff. They basically taught you how to pass the state test. And I just said, that's good enough. I can teach her everything else. Like, we, and the world can teach her everything else. Yes. Just go get your license and come back. Yeah. And so, it's interesting because, those teachers that doubt you, and I'm not talking, my mother is a teacher, by the way, if you're listening to this. I'm actually raised by all educators. Yes. I have the utmost respect for educators. Your mom actually works for the public schools. Yes. And but it's just interesting that sometimes they put you in this category of like, oh, you're not going to make any money. Right. And I can assure you, I write her checks every single week, and she's probably triple what or more what teachers are making. Yep. So
that's a very proud honor. Yes, for sure.
They come to that from a humble spot, but it's just of like, you guys that are listening, they're like, I have no idea. I don't know what I want to do. And you have an idea of like maybe what you love to do. Yes. Go with that, because you never work a day in your life if you love what you do. Exactly. And kind of brings me to my next point. Yeah. It was one of those on-the-spot questions I told you I had for you. I remember back in the first, and Creighton actually reminded me of this yesterday, back in the first master class that you ever attended. Yes. I don't think it was the first one we ever had, but it was the first one that you sat through as a student. And you had like spoke up and said, you know, and this was, mind you guys, this was probably now, what, 2 years ago? 2 years ago, probably. And you had maybe just got your license. I don't even know if you had it at the time. It was, you know, lots of changes.
Blur.
But you were like, I'm currently in this position.
Yeah.
It's crazy to say this because we're going to talk about where you are now in just a second. But you were like, I didn't know that I could dream. Like I didn't even, I wasn't in a position, or I wasn't taught, or I wasn't, like, I didn't even know that I could dream and have dreams of my own. Yep. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
What you mean by that.
So, like we were talking about the backstory of how I was brought up in schooling, where, you know, people ask, where are you going to college? You say, here's school. They go, oh, okay, cool. And that's the end of the conversation. And then it's like, you know, you talk with your parents, like, they're just so eager for you to just start. They don't talk about the future. You don't know anything about that. I mean, I started, like, you know, like, I was a cleaner for you. I started just a few hours, like, and I just watched y'all. And that's kind of, like, all I knew, like, wow, they do hair on the floor, like, they make beautiful work. So it was, like, I never got to see past, like, all of the things that y'all did. So it was, like, I always knew about it, but I never got to experience it. More behind the scenes a little bit, but
oh yeah, she was cleaning my toilets.
Yeah, guys, it was not all glamorous for me. Let's just there's some more funny stories behind that too, but it was like, you know, my main focus at that time was literally just get through graduation at high school, get my license. And that was all I thought of. So when we were sitting there, I'm surrounded by all these stylists that made all this money. I was being taught by Tara, you know, all these other people. I'm surrounded by people like Creighton and the other stylists in, you know, the salon. And it was like, they all told this, like, I want to do Gucci hair shows. I want to do this. I want to do that. And I was literally like sobbing. When I say uncontrollably sobbing, I'm talking like I'm having my face hid in a t-shirt because I was like, I have no freaking clue what that even feels like to be excited about something, you know, because it was almost like not a dreadful thing that I had to go through it all, but it was more of like, keep going, like, you're good, you got it, you're almost there. It was like I never had even had a thought in my mind of what I could actually do, because it was never taught. Like, it was either go to college or, you know, work somewhere that doesn't give you a diploma and you work your hourly rate, or you work a salary and then you work for retirement, and that's about it. That's about what you were taught in our small town, right? Because that's what everyone did, and there are a lot of people that did very well for themselves. That is not my statement, but I was sitting there being like, I didn't even think like that. I couldn't even, like, I felt it in my chest. It was like a realization that, like, you know, my life was more than Muldrow. My life was more than just being a cleaner. My life was more than just being the girl who failed high school or, you know, barely made it by. I wasn't the lazy one. I wasn't this. I was like, in my heart and in my chest, I felt like I could actually work for anything and anything I could ever possibly dream of. So what's funny is I still have the dream board that we have, and it is crazy. I could almost cry about it, and I'm not going to cry about it because it was what I'm going to cry about. But it was like, in this dream board, there's tear stains, mind you, all over this magazine cutout. But it was like, you're going to travel the world. You're going to be a successful hairstylist. You're going to be surrounded by people that you love, and you're going to work at a salon that you love. And it's like, I'm actually gonna cry. I knew that first time. Okay. So it was like this crazy thing of, like, last year we traveled around the world. I work with some of the greatest hairstylists. I make almost 6 figures, like, first year on the floor. I'm working with an assistant. It was literally like things that, even on this dream board, I was like, this is something I'll hit in 10 years. And it was like 2 years later, I'm sitting here getting to be on a podcast with you to share with other hairstylists all over. And it's like, it still was never a thought in my brain. So, like, when you ask, like, how I felt, it was like, maybe this is my limit. Like, you know, like this, and working with you, there's never a limit. Like, there will never be a roof over my head. There will never be people telling me ever again what I can and can't do. So I think that seeing that now, it, like, blows my mind sitting here. But there's more than just being a hairstylist. It's more than just going to school. It's more than just you hate algebra. It's more than just, it's more than anything that you could ever think of. And the people like Tara's talking about that are in school who have no idea what you want, or people are telling you what to do, you do not ever be put in that box or that category, like, ever. It will set you back so much. And I think my biggest thing was I was like keep pushing, keep pushing. You may hate life now, but it's going to be better. And even if you don't have a dream, even if you don't, if you put in the work and you follow and you surround yourself by people who can give you those dreams and help guide you and give you ideas, that's what you need to do. Like every single day of your life, even if you don't want to wake up in the morning and get out of bed, you need to do it. Because for example, Creighton, Tara, like we're all prime examples of like, if you just keep going every day and get up out of bed and go to work like you've always said, you can do anything. Yeah.
Podcast over.
Done.
We don't even need to say anything else.
Mic drop.
It's just not running out of my face because I never cry. I'm over here like
oh my god.
well, and you guys can obviously see how passionate she is, but I want to also add, like, you aren't always this way. Like you did almost change overnight one day, you know, but that like journey leading up to that, and there's still so many hardships, and we have weekly conversations now, and now she's 21, she started this at 15, and that's what I think that people, we talk a lot about your success, and especially, in classes, and we don't a lot on platforms, but people can just see it because you are just totally a different person. And, the one thing about you is you always showed up, and that's the one thing that I think people miss, that part. Like, you have to show up and do the jobs that you don't want to do in order to get the job that you want to have. And that's what's so cool about you, is even at 16 years old, when you were such a shithead,
very
and
so.
I wanted to strangle you. More days than not, I was just like, this kid
is so...
And I say that. There are a lot of, like, I made a post the other day on Facebook, and a lot of things about Kyrsten back then when she was 16, and I was just opening my first business. Obviously, you and I are totally different humans than we were then. That was 6 years ago. But, even back then, you were such a breath of fresh air to me, because you would come in and talk about boys in high school, and you would have your heart broken.
I'm grounded.
Or she was grounded for sneaking out or doing things that 16-year-olds should have been doing. Or shouldn't have been doing, according to her parents. She's got the good kind of parents, that like discipline and tell her right from wrong and tell her the truth. And, she's just been raised right. And that's something that we've talked a lot about lately. Is, that your parents, as much, they've set that foundation for you because morally you are very sound. And, I see that being a very consistent thing between the people inside of my company that are extremely successful. Is that's the one thing that every single person that is really successful and, really just exceeds in anything that they do, always start with like a good foundation with, just good morals. Even if your parents didn't teach you good morals, you can gain them yourself.
You can be a good person.
You can be a good person.
You can be a good person.
But, you've always been a good person. You've always had good intentions. I'll never forget the time. And I have to tell this story because it's funny.
So embarrassing.
It wasn't funny then, but it's funny.
No, not at all.
I had to her mom called me up one day and was just like, hey, just letting you know, Kyrsten, we've basically quit all of her medication. She was on, it's okay that I say it, just some ADHD medicine. And which she needed it then, and I think it was a good decision maybe to get off of it at that time. And you were kind of outgrowing it and learning how to handle it on your own, and I think that's the goal when you have ADHD. And
how to function normal in society.
In society, like, welcome to the world. And so she called, she's like, we quit our medications, and just to let you know, I was like, great. So it was like chasing a squirrel around the salon sometimes.
Literally.
And I developed a checklist like a couple of days after that, because I realized, I was like, girlfriend's having a hard time like staying on task and getting everything completed. So I was like, I printed out on the computer a checklist of like things that needed to be done before she ever walked out the door. And I finished a client, and she was like, hey, boss, you care if I get out of here? I'm finished with everything. And I was like, yeah, as long as every single thing's done, because when I get finished with the client, I've got to get out the door. And she was like, yeah, everything's done. I'm like, awesome. I'm like, checklist is checked off, And she's like, yeah, everything's checked off. Well, she's correct. The checklist was checked off by her pen and hands, but not by the physical.
In my brain, I did it.
In your brain, the checklist was checked off. The hair on the floor told me that the checklist was not checked off.
Was sure not checked off.
So I called her. I'm like, Kyrsten, you have checked off this checklist. And she was like, I'm like, so, but the tasks aren't done. Yeah, they are. I go, you call me a liar?
No.
I was like, but are you a liar? Because you've checked it off and you did. I was probably just finished up a 12-hour day, so I was probably about 3 notches a little too dramatic.
It's okay.
In this situation.
Right.
But what was funny about it is she was like, okay, I'm going back right now. And I'm
when I say I whipped that car around so fast, I was there in maybe 0.5 seconds.
And I had cameras in the salon. So I'd left. I had somewhere to be, and so I was like, all right, you come back and finish. Let me know when you're finished.
Right.
And I left. And I turned on the cameras to watch her, and she's in there sweeping and weeping. Sweeping and weeping. She's like trying to finish all these
scrubbing the walls. I was wiping chairs.
I'll never forget, I came in the next morning and that salon was the
spotless,
cleanest salon I've ever been.
Yep.
And it was really funny.
And it was. Not at the time for me mentally, but
no.
Let me tell you, there was never a day that I walked out of that salon that I did not do exactly what Tara had set out for me to do, or if I did had guilt and have texted her being like, I left a brush on the back bar and I'm so ungodly sorry, we'll be there earlier in the morning, 30 minutes early actually to clean it for you.
Brush.
But it was like, you have to do that. Yeah. You have to set those challenges. And like we've talked about it the other day, like, what are challenges for me that I can challenge other people? Because I'm like, I remember back in the day, like, you never did that to be mean to me. Your goal was never to be like, I'm going to piss Kyrsten off today. Let's do it. Let's push her buttons. I look back now and I'm like, Tara just saw that I had these things right, but here's where I went completely wrong. And getting my foot out, like, even like as an assistant, that changed my entire mindset. I remember one day, even like, I remember keynotes of like that night, or like you went to pick up a clip one day and you're doing a blonde client and there was color on it and you went, hey, details. Every little thing you clean has details. And I'm like, oh my God, that would have been like horrible. You had this blonde client, you had black color on this clip. Like, no. So every single clip is cleaned a certain way. Like even the way that we formulate, and even every little detail goes into my everyday life to this day, even at 16. But I wouldn't have done that if you wouldn't have called me, or if you wouldn't have set aside to like even like 5 seconds of being like, yo, don't forget about this. And I'm like, got it. Like, you know, funny story, guys, which we have to tell this. So even when Tara was on my back and everything, I wasn't always this giddy, like, okay person. I hated it because she was challenging me. I knew what she was doing, but I was like, I hated it almost. There were times where Tara might have walked out of the building and there weren't any cameras around, and I might have flipped her off. Out of pure, like, I don't know why, but it's that 16-year-old, like, I don't have to do this type thing. I did it. I never gave her mouth. I don't think I ever mouthed you or anything.
Never were disrespectful.
But to get that out of me, you would walk behind someone and be like, eh.
About a year and a half ago, she finally...
Oh, yeah. I held it in. It was a secret.
Yeah, about my side of the story is, you know, a year and a half ago, I don't even know where we were.
We were at dinner with other people.
Okay, probably dinner with, like, clients outside of here.
Yeah.
She was like, hey, boss, I got something to tell you. I'm feeling a little guilty about it. I was like, oh, yeah. And I think she'd already told, like, Creighton and some of the others, and they were, like, already laughing.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, what is she about to say? And she goes, you know, I don't do it anymore, but used to, whenever you would walk out of the room, I would just flip you off. And I just like...
Your mouth dropped, and you were like, excuse me?
But like, it's funny now, because we all know, we've lived it. Like, we've all
Yeah.
had parents that, you know, my parents especially, I know that as soon as my mama walked out the door. And so, you know, it was just a funny story, but those were challenges back then. Now we're facing, you know, whole new challenges.
Whole new world.
We're about to get into that. But kind of give you guys a briefing of fast forward out of that funny. Now, I guess as of a year ago, she basically decided, I invited her. I was like, listen, we're going on tour this year with Harper Ellis Hair Co. We're going all around the U.S. and we're going to, certify and educate over, thousands of stylists. Yeah. And I was like, would you like to go on the road with us? And of course, immediate yes. There's never been a no from Kyrsten. Yeah. And that's the thing with Kyrsten is like, her showing up at 16 is why she is the way she is now. And, she always showed up for work, even if she was a little bit late. We'll talk about that. But even if she was a little bit late, she always showed up. And, we basically took this person that was already great and we just fine-tuned. Yeah. And, the fine-tuning has been really hard and painful. Yes. I say, and this is something I posted the other day on Facebook, is, you and I have the most intelligent conversations with Kyrsten. And, you guys, I've talked to business owners that are, billionaires and on these levels that you would think that conversations would be totally different, and they are. But with her, they're just so intelligent because it's never a, I'm having this little 16-year-old problem, can you help me? It's, no, I'm having these big girl problems, and these are, due to my success, and this is due to the decisions I'm making, the good decisions that I'm making, and, how can I solve them? And so, sometimes I know just this week we've had conversations in my office, and I'm like, gosh, she's just like trailing me on, and I'm like, I'm trying to guide you on some of the problems that you're having, but I'm also having that problem. But I was like, I'm kind of also there. Yeah. And so, it's just so incredible to see, like she just said a while ago, she's a year out on the floor. Yeah. And not even that, you're basically a few months out on the floor. Yeah. And this year you're set to be a 6-figure earner. Right. Which is such incredible. It gives me chills every single time I say that. And, she's one of our lead educators with Harper Ellis Hair Co. alongside Creighton. Right. And she goes around and she educates thousands of other stylists. Yeah. She's 21 years old. Like, the things that she's accomplished. She's helped us work on celebrity hair. Yeah. She has, been on a lot of our big shoots that we've had. Right. And just now she runs my entire private mentorship for Harper Ellis Hair Co.
Which I'm absolutely obsessed with. I'm so thankful every day.
She's so great at it. You're great at educating, and she's just taken what really is her God-given gifts, and she's applied herself, and now it's just blown up to be something incredible. Yeah. All the success though, and something about you though is you're able to swallow the pill of going, success actually is hard. From the outside, social media, I think a lot of your friends think that you've just got it made. You've been given the silver platter of like, oh,
you're lucky,
make good money, and you get to travel, and you get to do all these things, but you are dealing with so much internally, and that growth is painful. Yes. And as a leader too, and you guys out there that are leading, other people, it's hard to like go back and say that. It's hard to go, hey, it's just the way it is. Success is not easy, and it's painful, and there's going to be a lot of tears. Yeah. But you handle it with such grace. Like you're like, okay, I get it. I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna mentally be better. You're always solving a problem. Yeah. And even if it's a hard problem to solve, you're always trying to solve it. Yes. And you're very proactive, and I think that is why you are, where you are. Yeah,
I definitely think, and like, I just made a post on Instagram about this today because that's been sitting heavy. It's been a part of our big conversations. Like, you have a choice. You said, yeah, you can come work for me, but it's up to you if you show up and do the work. I'm like, okay. Going on to Creighton, he's like, yeah, I can mentor you and teach you everything, but if you're not here to give me 110, I'm so sorry, but you're not even gonna come close to me. And he was not being rude. He was not being mean, but he's like, here's your choice to grow. It's up to you if you do it. If you decide to work with me, and then even more, it's even harder. Not only are you assisting me for 40 hours a week, but then go out on Saturdays and work a 10-hour day. Like, he's like, you don't have to do that, by the way. You even said that. You don't have to work that, but highly recommend it if you want this. And I was like, got it. That was not at all like just a breeze. I did not. Do you think I had fun leaving at 8:30 at night, 6 days a week? No. But it's like, I made that choice because you set out a path for me. It was my decision if I wanted to walk it with you. Creighton, he held my hand for a little bit, and then he's like, all right, now you're catching up to me.
Creighton goes like this.
Boom.
Have fun.
Bye. And it was like, I think I was in your office like every week at that point. I was like, da 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 da. But it's like, I still made that choice to show up every day. And I still made that choice to have good morals, be a good person. Like, having the issues that I did were not bad issues, though. It was all about growth. But if I wouldn't have decided to get up and bust my ass almost every day, and even if I didn't, at least try my hardest, I don't think I would have the success that I would.
Totally.
And I think that's a big thing for people that, like you said, they don't realize.
Mm-mm. And there's even people inside of my own circle, my own companies that, we always give the guidance. You enter our doors, we decide that you're a good fit to work for our company. We give everyone the same exact opportunity. Yeah. But the matter of the fact is not everyone takes it. And, it's hard to take it though, because 6 days a week over sometimes 12-hour days is not simple. Yeah. And, there were a lot of conversations that we had to have of like, oh my gosh, I'm tired of this. I want to go out and be a 21-year-old. I never told her she had to show up that often. Right. I just said, I recommend it. It's what's going to have to happen if you want what you're saying to me that you want. Right. But that's the problem with success. Is all these people are like, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want to live. It's easy to dream. It's easy to go, I want to live this kind of life. Right. But the hard part is showing up and doing it and putting in the work. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I love about you. And that's why you are, right beside me, especially when you're educating others and trying to inspire and change the world. And, that's what I love about you too. And why your success is so great is because you're not doing this for money. The money is a plus. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But, you and I have the same alignment as far as like, we're out to change the world. We want to help people and, we want to have fulfillment from that. Mm-hmm. And so, when you talk to other people about success, that's one thing that you always talk about. There's so many tears through all of that. That's not easy. And it still is not easy. You still, you sent me a text this past weekend. Or maybe it was late last week and said, sometimes I just really miss being a 21-year-old. Mm-hmm. And when you have those conversations with me, I'm like, you should, absolutely. And you should go and find time to be a 21-year-old. You get one life. You are only 21 one time. Yeah. But she'll go out and do it, and then she will reel it in and show right back up, because she does know where she's going. And even if that like path of where she's going is sometimes fuzzy, because you're 21, you're still dreaming. Right. And I think that that's important, that you still aren't completely sure of where you want to go, but you just know that you're going towards greater things. Yes. And as you guys are listening that are leading other people, she came in my office a couple weeks ago and she was like, I want to own a salon. Yeah. And I could have handled that one or two ways. I could have been like very almost, I guess, intimidated, or I could have been kind of offended. Right. But to me, that I love that. Like, thankfully that I've made it look so glamorous that she wants to be a salon owner. But a couple days ago, we had another conversation. She's like, I see all the bullshit that you're dealing with. I'm not sure if that's my dream anymore.
Thank you so much for having that talk with me.
Thank you so much for letting me explore that dream. However, I think I've moved on since then.
Take it back.
And she may still, we're kind of kidding, kind of not. But, that's just, I think that's important for people listening is, your journey is still so hard. It's not, you never have arrived, but you always enjoy the journey. Yes. You're always like, I love where I'm at. I'm thankful for the opportunity. Right. And, we've had those talks of like, it's not really about the destination, because I don't even know where the destination would be. Yeah. My destination, honestly, seems kind of boring. I hope my destination is that I get to do what I want, when I want. Right. And maybe not work so hard, but...
And I'm pretty sure I told you, I said, I think my destination is I want to fill those shoes. Right. Like, I want to help you help me. Right. Yeah. It was more of like, I want to work to have a better work life, and then that way you also have a better relaxed life.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, exactly.
But, and that's just the thing. It's really not about the destination. It's just about the journey. It's about, like, what you're experiencing along the way, the opportunities that you're getting, and you've always kind of understood that. Yes. And I think that's, you have so many powers that people don't have. I mean, people twice your age don't have the powers that you have. And it's just crazy to look back, and you had high school teachers that thought you were dumb. Yeah. And, and now this girl is like spouting off, failed math, but she's in my office every week being like, Tara, I'm making these numbers. This is what I'm doing. Well, I'm going to, you're formulating goal income formulations with me. And it's just incredible to see.
Yeah.
And so, more than anything, I want you to we're going to finish up by, I want you to tell them, what now sort of success means to you, because we talked about the dreamer that you became and how you became that. Like, what does success mean to you now?
Yeah, and which I think we've been talking about that a lot lately too as well, and little bits and pieces in our meetings. But I've honestly, inside my heart, I've been thinking about it heavy lately. I think success to me is genuinely about my mental health. I'm so stable in life that I'm mentally okay. I can be able to be a 21-year-old sometimes, but still have a huge path ahead of me. I can go back and forth and be comfortable and not struggle with things. I think also a big thing is success to me isn't really I know I make good money, but honestly, I like the fact that with that I have freedom, but it's also to where I can always take care of myself. And I think that that's a big thing. And I don't think a lot of people think about that. How am I going to take care of myself every day? Because I don't ever want to have to be dependent on one person. And I knew my parents loved them to death. They would always be there for me. But I didn't want to, not burden them, but I never wanted to have to be I need help. I need this. I wanted to have my own car. I wanted to have my own apartment. I want to be able to have a shoe addiction. I wanted to be able to, but create this style. And I think I told you this one day. I said, it's not so much just about buying all of these clothes. It's every day when I get up in the morning, I get dressed, I don't cry anymore. It's success to me is I have built this confidence within myself, the way I see myself, the way I feel about myself, and even this image that I've created. I genuinely think that that's my success. I think I'm successful now. I know I have a lot more to go, but those things kind of tie into it. And big success for me, looking at also the Salon Owners Retreat that we did, I'm beyond grateful and successful with who I work with. A lot of people don't even get to hit the people that I love that are in my life. And so that's also a huge part, because that's a part of people's goals. I want to be happy where I work. I want to be happy with who I work with. And I'm there. That's honestly what success looks to me. I know it'll change, but I think that those key factors are probably always going to be there.
And she's there. It's crazy.
Right.
21. I'm staring at her brand new car actually outside. And
vroom, vroom.
And it's not about material things, but it's about the freedom.
Yes.
And that's what you've created. I'm staring at a brand new car. A couple weeks ago, I was like, hey, we're going to Vegas in a month or so if you want to go.
Yep.
She's like, oh, I don't know. Probably shouldn't spend that money. She booked it. She paid for her own plane ticket. She bought her brand new. Kane's laughing back there. She bought her.
I think we were actually in the middle of class and there was a break and I sent her to screenshot. I said, I'm going
to Vegas. But she bought her own.
Yeah.
Her own hotel room, her own plane ticket, but at 21 years old, I could not. I didn't have $2,000 in my bank account to even be able to even consider going to Vegas.
Right. Yep.
And so, but I was just I was actually in the front of the class. I was just which I love hanging out with her. That's a plus to Kyrsten. Is she always. I'm so happy whenever she's around.
I just need a moment with my friends. I just need to be with y'all for a weekend.
And so, she booked the flight and she booked the hotel room. And I was just wow, what a cool opportunity to be 21 years old and be fuck it, I'm going to Vegas.
Yep. Swipe.
And so, that to us, it's not about the material things. It's not about, it's not about the new car. It's not about the awesome apartment that you're getting to live in. It's not about you know, all these things that you're able to provide for yourself. It's like freedom. You're like, I don't need anybody. I have what I have, and
bingo.
You do all this, and you work less hours than our parents have to.
Yeah.
And I think that's an incredible thing.
Yeah.
And so I just appreciate you being on, because I know this is the start of it. You and I could podcast 5 more times and not get to the details of your story. So I'm just excited that you came on today, and I hope that this is the first intro to your story, and I can't wait to bring you back on and people kind of keep up with your growth and what you're doing.
Awesome.
I know that, you and I have a lot of crazy things coming and a lot of changes inside of our companies and organizations, and there's going to be a lot of growth, especially in the next year.
Yeah, I'm so
Thankful
excited. Thank
for you to be on here.
Thank you.
All right, tell your handle again so they can go follow you.
It's at Colored by Kyrsten. You guys should go follow. I post a lot about extensions, colors, all the things. I also brag about Tara and Creighton a lot. I also love to bully Creighton. So if you're one who loves to watch us make fun of Creighton, you definitely need to follow.
Everyone loves to make fun of Creighton.
Right.
It's because he's cooler than us, but we don't want him to know.
Slightly. I want to be him, but
So
can't
bring
let
him back
that.
down.
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.